A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. I have our movement expert Karl Müller with us today. We talk about the best way to get healthy through walking, but a lot of people also walk in the wrong way. And the consequences of this are, of course, diverse. And we will talk about them today. But Karl Müller will also show us today how to walk correctly in order to prevent exactly this wrong walk. So stay tuned. Hello, dear Karl. Nice you're here.
Hello, Corina.
I'm always fascinated by your flexibility, by your dynamism and being young at heart. And of course, I'm happy today that we're actually talking about the topic of walking properly. Above all, because I think we could all walk a bit better. We somehow walk in the wrong direction. We can also see it in a figurative sense. But for now, let's stay with the anatomy. What's it like there? What are the basic problems when walking?
So, first of all, to the walk itself. The walk is something totally individual. You can recognise people by their walk. There are devices today, and there will be more and more, especially in criminology, where you can recognise people by their walk. The walk is something that's in the genes and very, very difficult to change. But, for example, if you are on a march or a walk and have a very small pebble on one side of your foot, under the heel or on the edge of the heel, then this will change your walk. So then you'll, in a way that you don't feel the pebble, but you will fall into a relieving posture. And this relieving posture will then overload the other side, for example. There are possibilities for the walk, which is actually quite characteristic for the human being, the same as the fingerprints, that it can be changed, but mostly in a negative sense. So, if something hurts, something bothers you, something blocks you, like a boot, or like a ski boot, so that you can imagine it well, then it forces you to change your walk.
Now, when it comes to mind when skiing, when you really have to be in ski boots for the whole day or for a few days, you really get neck pain. So at least that's how I feel. Does that have something to do with it? That I then feel it on the back of my neck?
Yeah. The walk has a huge influence on the neck, but it can also be the other way around. That if you are mentally distressed, that this in turn changes your walk psychologically, and vice versa. When you're forced, hurt, when you can't walk properly, that also gets on your nerves. So it changes the walk again. Now, in science, in biomechanics, there are methods of studying the walk. So you try to measure the walk. You can see that here. There are different parameters how to measure the walk. So, for example, you walk over force plates. It's like a scale. It's not a pressure plate. It's a force plate. You walk over it and see how the load is there. There are angles. So with angles, knee angle, hip angle, shoulder angle, one tries to standardize the walk. And one distinguishes the walk into different phases. A step begins with the first contact with the ground, with the so-called heel strike, and it ends with the takeoff. This step that touched the ground at first at the picture on the left ends when the same foot, the toe, had the last contact with the ground. And this phase is divided into 5 phases. The middle one is where you stand fully on one foot. And by the way, when walking, you always stand with one foot on the ground. You never have 2 feet on the ground. That's why it's so weird with the insoles. You measure the insoles while standing, but then use them while walking. And where the swinging leg goes right past the supporting leg, that's the middle of the walk phase. So, for example, you measure how much do I load the right side and how much do I load the left side. How long is the step on the right and how long is the step on the left. So, the stride length and how long I stand on the right and how long I stand on the left. So when I walk, I don't as long as on the right as I do on the left. This is how you try to scientifically analyse the walk.
Was the psychological component included? Because I could imagine now, when I walk to a great place to work, or I'm proud of my work, then I'll surely walk in a different way than when I'm walking to the tax office, you know what I mean? Or to a court hearing. That's certainly an important aspect that you might want to include, isn't it? Was that also taken into account?
Yeah, that would be very interesting, but that's not taken into account in biomechanics. There's simply stride length on the left, stride length on the right. How much do I stress? Then there's the ground reaction force. Maybe we'll see that later. How hard do I hit my joints? So it's the forces and the angles. But what you mentioned would of course be very interesting. That's not being done. In science there will always be, well, I'm a scientist myself, I'm a movement scientist. I studied mechanical engineering. But science is very, very limited. If you want to examine something, then you can only examine very little. And the connections, especially in the so-called medical science, I say so-called because it's not an exact science, it's more or less statistics. You look at how many people react to which remedy and how. In science, only a very, very small spectrum is looked at. What you said would be very interesting. It would be very interesting to study how a student goes to school and how do they walk away from school. You know, that hopping, bouncing, they don't do that when they go to school. Well, maybe at the beginning, but the closer they get to school, the less they do it. But out, when school's over, the bell rings and the children jump.
And how again? Because everything is so connected. Now, if I step and do this wrong, what is then affected by it? So, which organs, cartilage, what does all this have an impact on afterwards?
It's all affected. It's just like the stone in the shoe. Maybe you don't notice it with the first step, maybe not even the 10th, not the 100th, but by the 10,000th it just keeps getting worse. Let's look at the next slide. So, yeah, exactly that. There's this red arrow, and that is impact transient. That's there when the first ground contact comes with the heel. then there is a blow. And that first blow, children don't notice it when they walk on hard ground. You might notice it that when you're 40, 50, 60 and so on. It's then like a degeneration that takes place. For example, in the knees. Over time, it becomes more and more. It also affects the neck. It actually affects the whole body. What happens in the foot, of course, happens even more at the top. It changes the angles. You collapse in the pelvis. Maybe we can look at that later on another show. It changes the psyche. There is a psychological aspect that changes the walk, and there is an aspect that comes from the blows that hits the psyche. There's like a vicious circle. And the older you get, the harder it is to walk. The pain may come after only 2 kilometres. When you're even older, every step hurts. And that affects the psyche. And actually, the doctors then say, yeah, you'd have to walk more, exercise more. Yeah, but how do I want to walk more if I can't do it anymore? The dog bites its tail. So the walk and the psyche are very, very closely related. And just to examine it scientifically is very limiting. There's much more to it.
What would happen now with this wave movement if I really use this shoe that has the air in between?
That's actually what it's all about. This impact on hard ground in shoes is much, much bigger than, well, I'll take an extreme example, how barefoot in the sand. There's almost no such thing. Maybe we can go to the next page.
Barefoot in the sand. You can hardly walk in a wrong position, then you straighten up automatically. Or am I remembering it wrong? It was a long time ago.
Well, you can't walk in the wrong position, and that can also cause problems. If you've already fallen into a relieving posture, like if you had a pebble, and by the way, we're already born asymmetrical. We are right-handed or left-handed. Likewise, we're right-footed or left-footed. The supporting leg, free leg, is given. That's given by nature. And if we walk on hard floors in shoes every day, then this asymmetry, this one-sidedness increases. The strong foot gets stronger, the weak gets weaker. The gap widens over the course of life. If we walk barefoot on the sand, or barefoot on mossy ground, on soft, elastic, springy ground, or in general on natural ground, on average, statistically, left and right are always the same. This means that the right side is always challenged in the same way as the left. And then we would be more symmetrical.
Well, that's what I had now. I spent a week walking barefoot, and I was really perplexed. I was not at all aware of how the ground softens, the forest floor, and how the foot was able at some point to walk in such a way that nothing poked you anymore, because I really knew it. I was always very sensitive, a pebble here, there, ouch, and then how really the body interacts with nature into some kind of synergy. And you walk through the forest. We made wood, all barefoot, and I thought, wow, and you have a lot of movements. That was also really a great experience.
The movements barefoot in nature are much, much more complex than on the hard, flat ground in shoes. That movement is very monotonous. A monotonous movement, well, that would be another topic. They make fascia stick together, restrict movement, and increase blows because the feet no longer have this activity. Bring that tension into your whole body. And when the tension's gone, by just letting your foot drop, then these peaks, this first impact, then it gets bigger and bigger. And if we were to walk barefoot in the sand or on top of such elastic, springy, soft moss, like the two pictures above, then this blow is converted into a sine-like curve. This trampoline movement, this springy, elastic springy. So this blue curve would turn into a red curve.
Which would certainly also be an exciting topic, whether a kind of foot intelligence restores with all this walking, you know? Because it is precisely this bridge with nature that we no longer walk anywhere, where it then pricks you in the foot, as if there were another intelligence that we have not yet outlined scientifically.
I find the word foot intelligence exciting. I've never heard of it.
I just made it up.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting term because, of course, there's much more to the foot than just mechanics. There's sensorimotor, there's proprioception, that's how am I in a space, in the foot sensors. The stimulation has a very powerful major impact on the neurology of the body. Now, we note that people who are in our shoes do something like what this springy thing does at the top. It's like a bouncy trampoline-like bouncy thing. And the sole between the hard, flat ground and the foot in it. So the foot moves in a much more complex way, just not as monotonously. And then this stimulates the sensors and results in a sensorimotor function that has an enormous impact on neurological diseases such as Parkinson's, such as MS, or after traumatic brain injury. There's also a loss of sensorimotor function, the feeling in a space, and that can be regained more quickly as a result. So we've had tremendously good experiences with MS and Parkinson's, although you might think, especially with MS, where you already have walking difficulties anyway. And that's surprising. Not surprising to me, but very surprising to outsiders. This additional gained or rediscovered intelligence of the feet improves, stabilises the walk.
But I can also imagine, because you have all your organs on the surface of your foot, large intestine, small intestine, heart, kidneys, and then you go to the foot reflex zone massage, and then the points are stimulated so that the organs function again. And in a closed shoe, it is somehow dead. And if I now have a shoe that brings this dynamic back in and this stimulation of the individual organs, then it's definitely related to that. That is certainly also a topic that what is then done manually with the hands, the feet can do themselves.
From a scientific point of view, I'm not very familiar with this topic. However, I lived in Asia for 20 years in South Korea, and I also did acupressure. It's called Chi-Ap there. And there really are these meridians that can be stimulated. And I found out myself, or I'm finding out, when you walk, like on the top right, or like below in that black shoe, where this elastically springy sole is in between, loosening effect on the organs. So when I'm blocked in the gut, in the stomach.
That's the middle foot. The whole intestine is in the metatarsal area with the small intestine.
So you notice that cramps are easing. You can tell when you are stressed and go jogging, it releases that.
But jogging with the Kaibun shoes is extremely exhausting at the beginning, but very efficient. I only jog half the time and feel like I've twice the input.
Yeah, above all, you did more for your small muscles, for the balancing muscles, and, well, it de-stresses it. It releases because you activate your feet much more, and these sensors much more. It also loosens the organs, because the organs hang over the fascia. The organs are also embedded in facial shells, and these are again connected to the neuromyofasciae. So with the muscular facial apparatus, it's so connected that when you look at your feet, if you use them more complex again, that also solves something in the organs. I do this every morning. I activate my organs and then notice that the muscle fascia apparatus that loosens. I'm becoming more flexible. My ability, I'm relatively flexible for my age.
Very flexible, yes.
And when I loosen the organs in the morning by pushing in or with fascia guns that vibrate when I push in there, then I'm much more flexible afterwards compared to if I didn't do that.
We still have to do a programme about what kind of exercises you do in the morning.
I would have to lie on the ground and show it.
Yep, great, cool. If now, just to conclude this programme, with the really healthy walking, what are the tips you have for the viewers as a movement expert, and also contact details if you want to find out about the right way to walk? So, a short quintessence from you.
Well, I'd say that there is enormous potential in the walk that is not being used at all. The doctors simply say that if someone's overweight or older and comes in with pain, well, they have to walk more. But if something hurts, you shouldn't walk. You should learn to walk in a way that the pain doesn't come or the pain disappears. So, in summary, for me, it's not the quantity of movement that's decisive, but the quality. And that starts at the feet. The strength, mobility, and balancing of the feet, which must, well, as a human being, you don't have to do anything. Well, almost nothing. But if you train the mobility, strength, and balancing ability of the feet, then there's a huge health potential in there. Much more than can be guessed in academic medicine.
Great. If you want to read up a little more as a viewer, where are the opportunities?
Well, we produce shoes that improve the quality of the walk. And there you get information at kybun.com, kybun.com, And there are also a lot of videos, advice, exercises, everything you can do with the walk for overall health.
Super. Great. Thank you, dear Karl, for being here today. It was very interesting again. I hope we will do a few more interviews together and hope to see you again soon.
Well, thank you, Corina.
Dear viewers, this walking inevitably accompanies us every day, and all the better if we can optimise it. I hope you're able to take something with you, and I wish you a wonderful time. Thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye.